So, good morning. Today what we're going to do is I'm going to show you on what's going to be happening with this unit when it starts up and we're losing the oil pressure. And I'm going to simulate this, but before starting up the unit I will remove one of the wires on the oil pressure sensor here. Just like this. I'm going to take the screw, I'm going to put the wire over here so nothing can happen. And I'm going to pause the video here for a second and I'm going to move it over to the other direction. As you can see, my cable here is coming from this direction. It is mounted on the control cubicle in the back, and it is just plugged in here like this. And we will be starting up the unit, and I will be simulating here now the oil pressure loss. And we will see this here in a second, okay? Thank you. Okay. Here we are. We have now disconnected the oil sensor switch by physically removing one of the wires. And what I'm going to demonstrate now is on how this unit basically goes into an alarm condition or in a fault condition and prevents the unit from being restarted via our external switch here. Again, as we're using the red and the green wire for this, and let me turn this on. Usually what happens in the startup cycle is that the unit will crank, and depending upon the condition of the generator set of the engine, it will probably start within a couple of seconds to 3 seconds. And so it's either going to crank for 15 seconds or it is going to crank and run until it shuts itself off. That is the actual start cycle. Once we come out of the start cycle, at that point is when the unit goes into a self-monitoring system, where we're looking at the oil pressure and the overheat conditions in the case that we lose, that we're going to overheat the engine. And this was done on purpose because you usually manually start these units here, which means you're here, the oil pressure gauge is over here on this side, where you can actually monitor this during startup. So that's why that is eminently important that you actually have, and you know that your oil level is correct, that you have the right engine oil, that your engine oil is in a good shape, the oil filters and the fuel filters are clean, the air filter is maintained, and the glow plugs are working. That's the basics. You really got to be after this for this to work right. Now, in the case that for whatever reason the oil pressure collapses during the startup phase, or any time during the run phase itself, when it actually runs, it will immediately shut down. It kicks out the contactor here, our control, our load, it disconnects the load, and it will then automatically shut down, and the unit will go into alarm mode. Whenever we lose oil pressure or we're overheating, that's the two conditions. Let me show you this on how this works. I'm going to reapply my power here. You can see the LED, battery 24 volts, okay, has turned on. We have now juice from the battery. When I make contact here, is the remote start LED is going to turn on. So, and you can see this, I'm just folding these two wires together. We're having now prime. Preheat is coming in. We're setting an ambient temperature, which shouldn't take too long. And the engine should crank here as soon as the preheat time has timed out, which is probably going to be around 25 seconds right now, or 22 seconds, I would say, in that neighborhood. I'm taking a guess at the ambient temperature we're having here. And then the engine probably is just going to start. So now you can see the unit actually has gone into an alarm state, and you can see the LED is blinking, and it should be audible too, is that the relay and the aux fuel pump are pulsed. This gives you an audible indication that you either have an overheat situation or a low oil pressure situation. And I can disconnect this now. Now what would happen is, if this unit is gotten into this situation, is if you were trying to restart the switch, your external switch, either from an automatic transfer switch or by a regular flip type switch, the unit will no longer take or respond to an input signal on the board. So you're protected. So you have to come back to your unit to actually take a look and see what happens. What you can do now is, when you look at the panel, is you can go back to preheat, you can go to prime and run, and you can basically override the alarm condition of the circuit board. We did this on purpose. To reset the circuit board is you simply pull the breaker and wait a couple of seconds and put the breaker back in. Now the unit is reset and we're ready to go. So if you go back now and you reapply the start signal, there we go. It goes through cycle again. Once the start has initiated, as you have about 3 seconds, the connection has to be closed for 3 seconds to go into the start cycle. And if you don't want to start the engine, simply pull the circuit breaker. It will stop it, reset it, and the unit is ready for operation. That's basically how simple it is. I'm going to turn it off now because I have the plus 24 volts coming from after the circuit breaker. If I do have a short somewhere against the chassis, it is this DC breaker which will basically pop just like this. See, this is basically all what happens. There's no damage to the system. You can see the LED is working. Everything is working here. We're going to go through the startup cycle again just to demonstrate this on how safe this is. Again, you're getting an extremely high quality board which meets or exceeds certain military standards. This board does not comply to every military standard as it is for civilian use. But it will greatly enhance the unit and it will give you a lot of stability and more operational capabilities of your generator set. Plus, you don't have to run every time over to it. Just make sure you check your oil. There we go. So this works pretty well, and I'm quite sure. If you have any more questions, if you would like to know more, please feel free to send us an email and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you.